We're going to continue giving our player predictions for the 2023 season. On today's episode, we're going to be looking over Marina Mabrey and Elena Smith. We're going to go over both those players, what I think they can do, and how they will contribute to the team in this upcoming season. We're also going to go around the WNBA to look around news around the W. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
Welcome to Chicago Sky Central, and here's your host, Haize.
All right, what's going on, Sky fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Sky Central. You guys can follow me right off the top at CEO Haize, at CEO Haize. And before we get started, I do want to announce that I have partnered with the Chicago Sky. And if you guys are planning on going to any Sky games this season, when you order your tickets, just put in the promo code Haize. That's my name, Haize, and you'll get a discount off on those tickets. But with that being said, let's jump into the topics for today. First up, it was announced that ESPN ABC will be airing 25 regular season WNBA games, which is the most for that brand of networks over the course of the season. They'll air on ABC, ESPN, and ESPN2 this season. This was just announced this past Wednesday, and they will be their first game they'll be airing is the return of Brittney Griner in her first game back with the Phoenix Mercury. They're also going to be airing a special before the game, kind of covering everything leading up to her return to the WNBA. It's going to be a huge moment for not only her, but the WNBA as a whole, just to have that number of games nationally televised by what is really the biggest sports platform right now in all of sports. So it's good to see that, the W is continuing to grow. They are continuing to try to reach more people, and having more games aired nationally so people can watch them is important. And, I do think that Brittney Griner's story does need to get out there as well. So I am happy that they are leading that off with coverage of Brittney Griner. And so while the networks will also air playoff games, and the WNBA All-Star Game will make its debut on ABC Primetime when it airs July 15th in Las Vegas at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is another year of growth for the WNBA as it continues to grow. Still has a lot of places, a lot of growth to do to get to where we know the W can be, and that's indicative of the quality of the product that they put out there. That's one of my lights dies nonetheless. So let's hope that we continue to see that growth from the WNBA, and that you guys, let's show up, let's show out, and let's support the W in this season because it is important. Now, get into another piece of news I want to talk about it. So the NBA, we're seeing more and more WNBA stars get jobs in the NBA, and there's no team that's doing more for that than the Portland Trail Blazers. The Portland Trail Blazers right now in their front office has Hall of Famer and the WNBA all-time leading scorer in Tina Thompson. She's a four-time champion as well. She's their scout, and she got hired last fall. Then we have two-time WNBA All-Star and 2012 Olympic gold medalist Asha Jones as well, who is their director of basketball strategy, who was hired in April 2021. We also have Sherry Sam, a 10-year WNBA veteran, was hired as the scouting manager in March of 2022. And then Washington Mystics guard Avina Westbrook is also working as an intern since the Blazers, and she's been in that position since October. And so while the teams in the WNBA continue to diversify, we're seeing more players have ties, more WNBA players have ties to NBA front offices than ever before. And so as right now, no team is really matching what the Blazers are doing as far as employing women and former WNBA stars in their front office. But as we continue to see it grow, I'm glad that these women are getting acknowledged for not only what they can contribute to the game, but also their overall basketball knowledge, because we know that they're knowledgeable. These are former athletes that some have reached the heights of the WNBA, and they rightfully so should be in places to where they can use that knowledge to continue to grow the game. So I wanted to acknowledge that, and I'm sure we'll see more. And I'm sure we're getting closer and closer to having our first NBA head coach. That former WNBA player is going to happen at some point in time, and I'm glad to see it continue to grow from around the league. But let's get into the Sky content for this episode. We're here to continue our player predictions leading up to the start of the 2023 season. And I'm going to not start off, this is our second episode doing it, but today we're going to be kicking it off with Marina Mabrey. And this is a player that the Sky just gave up a lot to acquire, right? Totaling over 3 picks and a lot of picks over the next 3 years that it really comes all banking down on what she can and can't provide for the Chicago Sky in a year that has seen us lose so many players that were big parts of this team. So it's important, and I wanted to start off with her and talk about her and her game. Last year was her first time year as basically a full-time starter. She started 32 out of 34 games. She had averages of 13 points per game, 3.6 rebounds per game, 3.7 assists per game, and right under a steal per game as well, on great shooting splits at that. 42% from the field, 35% from three-point range. She shot an amazing 50% in fourth quarters of games last season. So when we talk about clutch and we talk about the ability of the Chicago Sky players to really come in and perform, and how we're going to need this team to be quite different than what last year's team was, we're going to need players who can step up and put and shoulder that load, especially in tight and close games. And Marina Mabry absolutely projects to be that. As well, she is a 47% shooter from 8 feet. 53% shooter from 8 feet or less from the rim. So that means that when she gets to the rim, she's putting the ball in the basket. She's also a mid-range assassin at 47.6% from 8 to 16 feet from the basket. And we already went over also what she shoots three-point wise. Not that she's a high-volume three-point shooter. She averaged 5 three-pointers per game last season on that 35% shooting, but she can outright score the basketball. We know she's a scorer. She's a bucket. She can get a bucket. But the thing that I like about her game is that when she was needed to facilitate more, she was able to do that. And I do think her coming in as the starting point guard, which she's more than likely going to be, is going her ability to distribute, get other players involved. Isabel Harrison, Elena Smith, another one that we're going to talk, and the way that she can play with bigs is going to be highly important for the Chicago Sky team. And so while in these predictions, I'm not necessarily coming in and saying what I would like to see players average, I do think Marina Mabry, we know she can score, and she's going to absolutely have plenty of opportunities to put the ball in the basket. But I'm looking forward to see her grow as a distributor as well, and how she sets up other players. We're going to need that. Her and Courtney Williams are going to be doing a lot of that on this team this year. She's also a very solid defender, not a lockdown defender by any stretch of the imagination, but she consistently gives effort on that side of the ball. And when you look at now having her and Courtney Williams more than likely as our starting backcourt, with Kahleah Copper still being at that small forward position, we're going to have players all throughout that lineup that have the ability to hit shots, that have the ability to put the ball in the basket, but also are going to give that tough branded defense that we like here in the city of Chicago. And Marina Mabry is going to be at the key point of that a lot of times. More than any other player coming into the Chicago Sky this year, that most of the eyes are going to be on her just because of what James Wade gave up to bring her into this team. So with that said, we're all eyes on Marina Mabry, and I do expect her to show up and give the Chicago Sky a lot, scoring-wise, distributing the ball-wise, hitting big shots. She's also a player that has huge amounts of confidence, and that confidence, I think, is going to pay off. And when as the Sky are trying to build that identity, of course, Kahleah Copper, we all know Kahleah Copper is going to be the biggest part probably of setting that new identity for the Chicago Sky. But Marina Mabry and what she does and what she brings and who she's coming in replacing, and the Chicago legend in Courtney Vandersloot, is also going to be important to watch what she continues to bring to this team. So I'm really looking forward to what Marina Mabry brings for us. I'm looking forward to how she performs on this team, what that chemistry builds like with her and the other players on the team. Very excited about her coming in here, and I do think that she's going to be one of the players that turns a lot of eyes for Sky fans that are not necessarily aware of what her ceiling is. It woke a lot of Sky fans up in what we gave up for, right? And that alone is going to bring some maybe unjust critique to her. But I think she's going to stand up, and I think she's going to perform in a way that by the end of the season, I think she's going to be my and a lot of other Chicago Sky fans, one of their favorite players on the team. She plays with heart. She plays with determination. She's a highly intelligent basketball player as well. Basketball IQ is what separates people. A lot of people have skill coming into the WNBA, but when that basketball IQ matches that skill level, you can take it to whole new heights. And I think Marina Mabry is going to be a player that does that. I think she's going to be a player that Chicago Sky fans, when it's all said and done, we're going to see her have very big games and score some big points for us. She comes in 26 years old, fits that timeline. She's going to be a Chicago Sky for a long time, and she's now a key part of this roster. She instantly goes from being a player on the Dallas Wings that was asked to do a lot at times, but she's going to be asked to do so much more just coming into this team and what the identity of this team is going to be. And also, Coach James Wade has already talked about playing Marina Mabry and Dana Evans together and having both of them do some off-ball things and also do a lion's share of the ball handling. So when you look at that and you already have Coach James Wade identifying what he wants her to do. It's going to be a lot of expectations on Marina Mabrey, and I think she's going to live up to them. I think she's going to have a big season for the Chicago Sky. Now, the next player that we're going to talk about is one that is more of a unknown factor around her, right? And that's Elena Smith. Now, Elena Smith's skill set has some great skills that we all love to see. Last year, didn't play a lot. She hasn't played a lot in her She's only played 64 games since she was drafted in 2019. She's only started one game in that time, so it's not a huge sample size for her. But Coach James Wade, in the press conferences, talked about how he saw her skill set, how he saw her fitting, how he saw him using her in multiple positions, and her ability to not only put the ball on the floor, but also shoot. She's going to play forward. She's going to play some guard. She's probably even maybe going to play a little small ball center for us. I don't know. We have a lot of bigs on this team, so we'll see. But she is going to theoretically have every opportunity to earn a role on this team. Now, her averages last year, nothing amazing. 2022, she only played 9 total games for the Fever last season. She averaged 4.3 points per game in that. She averaged 2.7 rebounds, about a steal per game as well, and a half an assist per game on 33% shooting from the field, 24% shooting from three-point range. But you have to take a look at that and almost throw those numbers out. She was not a featured player. I don't really think she was used to her skill set. And we're going to get to see Elena Smith is going to have an opportunity to really come in and make a name for herself and earn a role. Now, I'm not too sure on how many minutes she's going to average for this team, at least initially starting off. It's really going to come down to how well she does perform and the chances that she gets initially, but she's going to get a lot of those opportunities. She's a former top 10 pick in the first round. So again, that talent level has always been there. It's just that she hasn't necessarily been given the opportunity. But for the Chicago Sky team that is still trying to build a new identity with a whole new roster, trying to find a new balance, I do think that she's going to come in and have a chance to earn a role. It all really comes down to, what does she perform? How does she take well to the system? How does she perform offensively and defensively and makes a name for herself on this team? And if she's able to do it, I think she's going to surprise some people in what she's able to do. She has the skill. If you watched her overseas, if you heard James Wade talked about what he saw from her overseas as well, she has it in her, right? That's why she was a former top 10 pick. The biggest question is, well, I guess top 10 pick in the WNBA doesn't mean as much, right? It's 12 teams. But with that being said, you have to look at the skill set. And I think that, you have certain players that haven't necessarily performed big, but it's more so because they haven't been given the chance. Elena Smith coming in, she's going to be given an opportunity. And I think that if she goes through the training camp and everything and earns that rotation spot in the roster, it means that she's performed. She's really going to have a chance to come in and kind of replace what Ema Mieseman did. Very similar skill sets in that time. The talent level is it's harder to gauge. Just because you have a similar skill set does not mean you have the same talent level. And that's what it's going to be the biggest question around Elena Smith in this time. What I think, looking at her, I think that if she does perform, if she does get the minutes, we do have a chance to have a big that can stretch the floor, do some solid things passing. Are they going to put the ball in her hands enough to allow the guards to maybe float around the outside, get some easier shots? That's what theoretically she could bring to this team. We just have to see if she's going to bring it. But we're going to continue our player predictions. Let me know down below, what do you think about these two players? What are your personal predictions for these two players as well going into the 2023 WNBA season for the Chicago Sky? But that is it for us for today. Make sure you're following us at Chicago Sky Pod on every social media platform. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoSkyCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave us a text and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Sky related. We're going to keep giving you this fire content at least 2 times a week during the off season and even more during the season. But like I like to end everything on, I'll see you guys next time we go to Skytown, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.